Um, on the first night of the 2020 Democratic National Convention, we kept people kept thinking back to the crescendo of Donald Trump's inaugural address. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now, he said back in 2017. When Trump uttered those words, they rang strange. The unemployment rate at that time was a little under 5%. Poverty was falling. Violent crime was falling. The proportion of Americans with health insurance was rising. America had real and serious problems, from climate change to wage stagnation to child poverty to systemic racism. But we weren't. But at the time, we weren't the murderous dystopia that Trump had put it. Almost 4 years later, the word carnage feels apt. More than 200,000 Americans have died from the coronavirus. The United States is seeing about 155 confirmed coronavirus cases per million people per day, more than 5 times the rate in the European Union. Children are home from school with no safe path back to the classroom. Unemployment is over 10%, which is higher than during the worst months of the financial crisis. The proportion of Americans with health insurance is falling, and the murder rate is spiking in cities. The first night of the Democratic Convention may well have been a themed American carnage. Moments of it were wrenching to watch. Kristen Urquiza remembered her father, who caught the COVID-19 after attending a karaoke night with his friends. He believed the dumbass president when he said the virus was fading, and then he died 3 weeks later from isolated from his family. She said, the lady said that my father was a 65-year-old healthy man. His only pre-existing condition was trust in everything that the douchebag Donald had said, and for that he paid with his life. Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, remembered her son, who was choked to death by a New York City police officer. I know when my son was murdered, there was a big uprising, but then it settled down. She said, but we can't let things settle down. Rodney and Philonise Floyd led a moment of silence for their brother George Floyd, who was choked to death by a Minnesota police officer. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser had recalled the day that when the fake president ordered peaceful protesters tear gas so he could take a failed photo op with the Bible, which he doesn't read anyway. A parade of the Republican office holders announced that they were endorsing Joe Biden, not because they agreed with him, but because they couldn't bear watching what the nominee of their own party is doing to the country. There was a person here, and they said that they had been a lifelong Republican, but that attachment holds second place to my responsibility to my country, said former Ohio Governor John Kasich. That's why I've chosen to appear at this convention in normal times. Something like this would probably never happen, but these are not normal times that we're living in. In his speech, Bernie Sanders summarized the situation completely. America, he said, faces the worst public health crisis in 100 years and the worst economic collapse since the Great Depression, but we are confronting systemic racism and the enormous threat to the planet of climate change. And in the middle of all this, we have a fake president who is not only incapable of addressing this crisis, but he is leading us down to the path of authoritarianism and destruction. In her keynote speech, Michelle Obama made the comparison to Election Day explicit. 4 years later, the state of this nation is very different, she said. More than 150,000 people have died from the coronavirus, and our economy is in shambles because of the virus that this fake president downplayed for too long. It has left millions of people jobless. Too many have lost their health care. Too many are struggling to take care of basic necessities like food and rent, and too many communities have been left in the lurch to grapple with whether and how to open the schools safely. Donald Trump is not the right squatter for this country, she continued. He has had more than enough time to prove that he can do the job, but he is clearly in over his head. He cannot meet this moment. He simply cannot be who we need him to be for us. It is what it is. When Trump took office in 2017, he said the carnage stops right here and stops right now. In truth, the carnage was beginning. That is Trump's record. To simply state the reality of the moment is to deliver a damning indictment of his fake presidency, and it is what it is. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, Ryan Ben Mike, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.